You have to make that decision. You can't wait to be in a place of authority for you to determine that you're going to be a safe individual. It is becoming a safe individual that makes God elevate you to the point of authority. Otherwise, it is the enemy positioning you for his purposes. Number 5. Seeing the final point is always a source of hope during dark times. It speaks for itself. Next slide. We have to try and cover this in the next 30 minutes. 3 hazards that I want you to be aware of. 3 main hazards. 1, the lure of the shortcut. 2, the trap of pretense. And 3, the error of self-focus. We will go into the specific processes that God would want us to deal with, but let's lay out the background. Next slide. So what is the lure of the shortcut? And how does it function? First, the feeding of impatience, the lack of discipline. Many of us will not allow God to take us through times and seasons because we are indisciplined. We are in a hurry. We are in a hurry to become something. We are in a hurry to become rich, so we become wicked. We are in a hurry to be married, so we end up with the devil as our father-in-law. You know what I'm talking about, all right? He doesn't need to have horns. He doesn't need to have horns. He could actually be attending church regularly. But you who is the in-law know that I'm having the devil as my in-law. Oh, this one, it is only the married people who know what I'm talking about. The rest say amen by faith. That it is possible. It is possible. In the fullness of your season, you will get there and you will understand the joke. Oh, that is what he was talking about that time. Eh? When preaching feeds your impatience, when the society feeds your impatience, when family feeds your impatience, you have finished already. Why are we not seeing? Why are we not seeing grandchildren? You are being asked for grandchildren, you have not even seen the spouse. How does that work? Are you hearing me? The desire to live up to a certain image. The demand that if you are called of God, then this must happen around you. That if you are walking with God, then this is how it looks. That may put pressure on you to look for shortcuts, to generate what God has not given you yet. 2, the vanity of pride. Thinking of yourself more than is right. A man of God once preached and said, ministry is in phases, men are in cyphers. Did you hear that? A man of God once preached and said, ministry is in phases and men are in cyphers. There is a phase that my ministry can allow me to handle certain things. And there are certain phases that I have not yet reached. This is me. And yet where I have reached, for somebody else it may not be their phase. I am in a phase that occasionally I may be able to buy an air ticket and fly to another city. If you attempt to do it, when it is not your phase, this is what will happen. You will beat everybody around you to give. To keep giving until the air ticket is bought. And once the air ticket is bought, it will be round 2. Because they have not grown economically, neither have they grown in faith, neither have you received the grace and favor before them. That is why you must squeeze them. Before you know it, then every time you are about to take every step you bought toward it is selfish. Oh, sorry, I went into something else. When you see people overly celebrating certain things, they probably haven't settled in that level. Oh, I have new shoes, click. I have a new shirt, click. I have a new watch, click. This is lunch, click. It means the lunch is a move of God to them. They feel that it is something so fantastic that it needs to be communicated abroad. The space they could be talking about character, modeling, engaging people. Click, click. Oh, someone is saying, just stepped on your toes. let me get off your toes. Let me get off your toes. But let me help you. When you land in a place that you have not yet been processed enough, that is why getting that shoe impresses you and you think you're somebody. When you have gone through the process of paying the price, when you buy it, you will not find anything magical about it.
Yeah. Amen.
You will find nothing magical about it. It cannot go to your head, neither can it go to your heart. It will be a blessing, and that will be it. So the next time you look at Facebook, you will know who has been processed. Among your friends, amen? You will know who is and who completely skipped class. There are some people, when they had the processing class began, they bolted out of the building. The vanity of pride. Number three, the grip of lust and greed. Wanting what is outside your season. Wanting what is outside your season. God knows times and seasons. God knows you by name. He knows your geography. He knows where you stay. He knows your address. There is no blessing with your name on it that can land on anybody else. It's not possible. It is literally impossible. Did you ever hear a testimony of any of the angels showing up and asking Manoah, "Are you Stephen?" Say, "No, I'm Manoah." "Oh, I've come to the wrong place." "Do you know where Stephen lives?" "Oh, he lives 3 houses down on your left, and then you take a right." Say, "Oh, thank you so much, Manoah." "Oh, this would have been terrible. Imagine you would have ended up with a son when it was meant for Stephen." "Oh, this is terrible." Imagine Gabriel landing and having a discussion with Mary. Are you Magdalene? Are you that Mary? Which Mary are you?" "No, I'm the other Mary, not Mary Magdalene." "I gave your baby to Mary Magdalene. I thought that was you. I delivered the wrong." Do you believe it is remotely possible? When we understand that God knows us from the rising, from our being born to our sunset, that He orders our steps, then you need to know that the season you are in is not an accident. Most of us fail to get processed because we want things that we are not yet ready for and we have not yet qualified for. This is partially fed by pride and impatience. When we should be serving, we want to be served. When we should be humble, we want to be respected. So you find somebody who has done nothing, not in the natural, neither in the spiritual, walking around like, "You don't respect me. Who do you think you are?" Yes, logically they are right. Logically they are right. But many of the people that God will send your way to shape you, to train you, will not look like they respect you. Let me say this again, slowly. Many of the people that God will send your way to correct you, to rebuke you, to instruct you, they will not look like they respect you. In fact, many times the people who love you dearly may not look like they respect you when they have a mandate and an assignment over your life, because they are not trying to be your best friends. They are not trying to run for office so that you vote them in. That's why whether you like it or not, they will tell you what they think is wrong with you. You will get offended, but they will hope that something changes. Some of us are so touchy-feely that nobody can tell you anything. And it gets worse when you become a professional, when you run into money, when you get married, when you have children. Suddenly people think that the gift of wisdom comes by the bearing of children. Ooh, my goodness, I have stepped on a few toes, my goodness. Jehovah God, help me now. Do you know that when the university gives you power to do all that appertains, it doesn't mean that they have given you a certification for global wisdom? That in every area of your life you have the insight you need. Do you realize that? But unless you yourself decide to be humble, most of us who make it in one level or another, in the natural, when we go into respective churches and ministries, there are places where you are made an elder just because you are a doctor. You don't know you are left from your right, but you are an elder. And the house comes tumbling down, I tell you. What God wanted to do through that man of God is held captive by your immaturity. When I wish there was a way to really get this across as effectively as possible. When you become an insistent that everyone who ministers to you must do it in a way that you consider acceptable, you will miss out on a lot of shame, a lot of correction, a lot of grace, a lot of instruction. Because some of the people sent to you are actually donkeys. A donkey once rebuked a prophet. The prophet did not argue with the donkey. Do you remember the story? Yes. Do you see Balaam / Balak engaging in a theological treatise with a donkey? They knew that the donkey was just used. The correction came from God. Some of us limit every vessel, every avenue that can bring wisdom to us because they don't measure up. They are not kind enough. They are not educated enough. They are not nice enough. They don't come from our same denomination. So nobody can correct you. And God will not process you when you have that mindset. When you have elevated yourself to a point that God is unable to reach you. Part of the reason and how you need to be processed is learning to be humble before the Lord so that He may lift you up. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Learning to be humble before the Lord that He may lift you up in due season. The vanity of avoiding the unpleasant. Anytime something is difficult, it's challenging, we bolt. We look for an alternative. We look for how we can have it fixed quickly. I remember a certain man of God in my earlier years of ministry. There's a time he was misunderstood, not by one person, but almost an entire system. He was leading a cell group leader. A cell group in the church, and he went out and conducted a service that some people were not happy with. The people were not happy because after about 2 months of him being the cell group leader, the house was so full, people were sitting in the compound. And he's a cell group leader. He's not a pastor, he's not a youth leader. He's nothing in church. He's just a cell group leader. So the regional overseer started a rumor. Not the devil, the regional overseer started a story. The story went to the senior pastor, came to the other cell group leaders. He had no idea why people were not talking to him. And then he was stripped of being a cell group leader for being disorderly. Now he had the option of not coming to church because everybody has offended him. Every morning prayer meeting he is there, the first one. The people who started the rumors would come and find him praying in church. The fellows, with time, of course, human beings talk, and he got to know how the issue began. The fellows who started the stuff against him, he would love them endlessly. After service, he goes to greet them. Hey, hallelujah, glory to God, you're such a blessing. He hugs them.
Wow.
It took several months. He was restored.
Amen.
And the apology was given from very high levels. So we sat down 2 months after that and I asked him, how was it? How was it? Because I had just been appointed as a group leader too. And he was one of my running buddies, so I knew if the rain can hit him, it could probably hit me too. That's him. How was it? Say the first night he was crushed, he was lost. He tried to figure out why God would allow that to happen. Have you ever been in a place where you ask God, why do you allow this to happen? Women who have kept themselves all through. Then they marry a brother who was actually an undercover wolf. Masquerading in church. She has kept herself perfectly. Before 3 months, the man already has an affair. And surely, as a sister, you ask yourself, how? God, where were you? Where were you? You save all your money, you want to buy a house. You get ready, you do your due diligence. The minute you give the money, the entire organization disappears. Even their website is pulled down. Even their website, you can't see. And this was your life saving. You are getting ready to buy a house. You have told your wife and children, we will be moving to our own house. Hallelujah. They raised holy hands and thank God with you. You are coming back with a report that you have need the house, no money. You have come back empty-handed. You are believing God. What happened? How did that happen? Say that he cried. And then in the morning, God told him, I'm dealing with it. You do what I told you to do. I am dealing with it. For more than a month, there was no evidence that God was dealing with it. God told him, I'm dealing with it. There was no change in the natural. Nothing had shifted. Nobody's attitude changed. Nobody apologized. Nobody wanted to reinstate him. And he was told, every time he seeks God, do what I told you to do. That's all. Do you think such a person, once they have come through out of that, do you think they are similar to another person who has not gone through that? One of the people testifying at the beginning of this meeting said, there is no replacement for experience. That is why when you stay in the shallow waters, you rob yourself of a depth of ministry, a depth of understanding that only comes when you walk with God and you do business in the deep. Psalm 107 from verse 23 to verse 30. You remember, some of you who were here when we handled confidence, that it is them who go into the deep with ships that they see the hand of the Lord. Unless you are willing to go to a certain depth, you are limited by where you are and by the exposure you have had. Let's go on to the next one. And of course, there's the lure of the shortcut in terms of the challenge of short-sightedness. Packaging is important, but you cannot package air. Amen. Let me say this again. Packaging is important, but you cannot package air. There must first be substance before packaging is effective. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Some people advertise what they don't have. Don't advertise what you can't deliver. Amen. Amen. Let me try this again. Don't advertise what you can't deliver. Amen. Can I hear an amen? Amen. Brothers, if you are advertising that you are ready to lead a home, please understand the dynamics of leading another human being with an independent mind. Let me just begin there, okay? It is not leading a robot, it is not procuring a coffee maker. Amen. Let me tell you. That was a good place for the sisters to say amen, but they seem to have missed what I was trying to say. Before you want someone to come and lodge with you, understand what is required for you to lead another human being. Another human being. I'm not even saying a female human being. No, I'm just saying another one. Leading a man is one proposition. Leading one who is completely alien to you is a completely different equation.
It is called going back to class. Amen.
Amen.
You cannot want to lead a family unless you are willing to go back to class periodically and regularly. And it requires a humility for you to keep learning, even when you thought you knew. Sometimes you learn how to be patient when you are right.
Because out here we have been taught to be patient when we are wrong. When you are leading a human being, you need to learn how to be patient when you are right. And what you are saying has been dismissed. Because of how you say it. Not what you say, it is how you say it. That the baby and the bathwater were thrown out. What you said plus how you said it went out the window. Are you hearing?
Let me not get into that territory. That's not what we're dealing with today. Short-sightedness will make you take on things that you're not ready for. And when you do that, then you will think that God is not faithful, that God has not called you, that God doesn't have a plan for you, but you bit off more than you have the ability to chew. Some of us will say, well, but God teaches us free. It is this same Jesus who taught and gave a parable and said, if you have an army and you have 1,000 and your enemy has 10,000. You remember that parable? He did not say have faith and attack the 10,000. Did he say that? Help me, some of us are more spiritual than Jesus. Some of us feel we have more revelation than the Lord Jesus Christ. He said, go and negotiate. Some of us want to insist to take on 10,000 with 1,000. And then when we are being consumed, we say God is not faithful. Where are you, Jehovah? Jehovah is there watching as you are being consumed. Because he said, I will never leave you nor forsake you. So you can count on him being present as you are getting a whooping. Because you will not listen to him. So he has to watch and hope that you get something out of it. Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 16, 17, 18. Do not be overwise, neither be overrighteous. Why destroy yourself? Thank you, my sister. Amen. Why destroy yourself? There are things we attempt to do because we overstretch faith. We take it out of context. We step out of our season. We try to assume we are who we are not because someone preached hot air into your head and charged you up like a little balloon, and now you are seeking and sagging everywhere in the kingdom, trying to be who you are not. Because you prophesied once, now you are a prophet. Because you managed to teach and someone say that was powerful, now I am a teacher. Listen, being a teacher is not about having the ability to teach. It's an office. It comes with grace. It comes with fruit. It comes with maturity. It comes with all kinds of things. By the time you are established in the office of a teacher, it's not just the ability to instruct someone. The office has more than just that. But the problem that happens is the minute you declare yourself above your pay grade, then you attract the opposition of that pay grade. Because the minute David was declared king, they came for him. The minute you declare yourself king, they will come to test your kingship. Oh, you didn't say that. And that is why some of us are suffering, because we are attempting to be where we are not supposed to be. We are saying things that are not yet orderly for us to attempt to say. Because of environment, we come and we start rebuking principalities. I come against you, you principality of confusion. Okay. Even when Michael was contending with some of them, he told them, the Lord rebuke you. He knew they are ranked. They are fallen, but they didn't lose all their power. Ask the angel who tried to deliver a message to Daniel. He was hanging in midair for 21 days. He is an angel, but he could not deliver. And it was not another senior angel who stopped him, but the arrogance of excitement. You say wrong things when you're not processed. When you When you're not processed, you leave your lane. Have you had this thing stay in your lane? You just leave your lane, you go everywhere. You comment about things you have no business getting into. You become a supervisor of people's salvation when your own life is falling apart. You comment on every ministry and every minister, every denomination and every church, every song leader and you are like a broadcasting station. In the multitude of words there lacketh not sin. It is short-sighted to attempt to be who God has not yet matured you to be. Sit down and allow God to process you. Allow the grace of God to grow. Allow the word of God to take root in your heart. Allow it to establish you to the point that the blessing will not knock you out of the kingdom. Get used to some things before you attempt to go to the next level. There are people, if they get a VIT, we will not sleep that night. If they get a VIT now, there are people who they greet that they will not greet. There are people they don't greet, they will suddenly lower the window and wave. That is not greeting, that is pride. The enemy tells you, don't worry, that's nothing. All he has done is put a seed of pride, so that when you get to a place where pride is incompatible, he will use it to tag the bait, to pull you out of where God is calling you. He plants things in you so that at an inconvenient time he will use them to bring you down. Jesus said, I stand here, the prince of darkness is coming, the prince of this world is coming, and he has nothing in me. There was guaranteed longevity because he had walked in a certain way. As you climb the mountains of influence, everything you bow to on your way up will have control over you when you get to the top of the mountain. Everything you trade off with on your way up, you will have to submit to its influence when you get to the top of that mountain. Do you want to be a man or woman who can be used without any kind of codes and limitations? Be a man who grows in both seasons. Be a woman who does not have all kinds of strange things accelerating them. Let God move you in your time. Let God move you in your season. Don't skip stages of growth. Otherwise, you will set yourself up for a mighty fall at a time that is very inconvenient. Can I hear amen? Amen. Let's go to the next one. The trap of pretense. When mastery of form replaces the need to have substance. When we know how to look like a certain thing. We know how to look like. We know how to look like. This is where the fake it situation is killing an entire generation of believers and ministers. When we have the form but not the substance. A very good man of God, if I mention his name, you would know it. He was preaching in a leaders' conference one time, and he said when he started ministry, the environment he was in, it was all about the presentation. And then he told us what he used to do. Oh, we laughed so hard, it was unbelievable. He said, you know, you needed to come out in a certain way. And he would come and say, I feel the power. Does anybody feel it in the house? So you have to start with a shout that wakes everybody up. Say, wow, okay. Then there was a way of moving his hands. That when you want to make people feel that the point you are making is big, then you have to do this. Are you listening to me? Even when you have just said tomorrow is Sunday. Wait for it, wait for it, wait for it. I'm going to give you something. Are you ready? Are you ready? Tomorrow is Sunday. Oh my God. Oh my God. Tomorrow is Sunday. Hallelujah. Okay. And you're sitting there wondering, And you would say, almost without failure, people will shout and clap. Then God started dealing with him and asked him, what are you doing? God asked him, what are you doing? What are you doing? Do you know it is possible to master the form and completely have no interest in the substance? You can even master the form of looking mature. Amen. Because some of us think maturity is lack of joy and lack of enthusiasm. They think that the more conservative you are, the more mature you are. What about Jesus? The Bible says, and Jesus danced in the spirit. Amen. One translation says, and he did a dance step. He did a dance step. Hallelujah. How do you reconcile that with the joy of the Lord is your strength? But for us to be mature, we need to be sober, potentially borderline depressed. When the form replaces the need for the substance, that's a trap of pretense. When you rationalize the present and you decide that this is okay. For example, if you're believing God for you to start flowing in your gift, and you have tried a few times, it has not worked, then you decide not everyone is called to operate in the gifts. That's called rationalization. You understand? You rationalize it so that you don't need to strive after it. You don't need to pursue it anymore. You can be at peace without growth. You rationalize it. Anyway, not everyone was healed in the time of Jesus. Well, not the ones who were near Jesus. The ones who sat around him, every one of them got healed. And who says that someone else's experience must determine your own? What is it that you used to believe for? And something knocked the daylights out of you. You decided it is safer, wiser, maybe even more mature not to believe it. It's more mature, so you don't talk about those things anymore. Say, I talked about them when I was a child. When I was a child, I believed God is going to use me to change the nations. Now I discover